You to join us. Again, hi everybody. Please put your name, affiliation in the chat so we can all say hi to each other. And it's great to see everybody here. My name is Marlene. I'll start us off today. I think Okay, here we go. So, our overview, who we are. We show this slide every single time, so it should be familiar, but we always like to repeat ourselves. So WastewaterSCAN is a national effort based out of Stanford in partnership with Emory to build this national network to implement new methods for wastewater monitoring. And so Allie and I are both here today. We're the program directors. And Verily is our partner for logistics, laboratory analysis, and data collection, NLC for capacity building, and then all of you who this call is for. The goal of this call is to be for all of our partners who are in public works and wastewater officials, and then state and local public health officials. So it's great to see everybody. Little program overview and update. So this again has not changed since last month, but we have 147 plants that are in WastewaterSCAN representing about almost 12% of the US population, and we have 40 states that are represented. So thank you to all of you from all over the country. And here's what we're currently monitoring, and this is where we have some of the biggest updates, and we'll talk a little bit more about those. Allie's going to share especially more about measles. But we have, among our important seasonal emerging respiratory pathogens, we have added parvovirus. That is a new pathogen that we've just added, so that star indicates it's a new pathogen we recently added. It's been about 2 weeks almost since we went live with that new data. For our enteric pathogens, we have added back rotavirus and human adenovirus group F. We were previously monitoring those, but due to space considerations had removed them temporarily. They're back, so that's great and exciting to have. And then for our emerging and outbreak pathogens of concern, we have recently added measles. And so that is a new addition into the program. And so this is now the full list of all of the different pathogens that we are monitoring in each of the WastewaterSCAN samples. We're also doing sequencing for SARS-CoV-2 from about 30 sites, and then we measure all of our controls, and everything has to pass our quality control metrics in order to have that data be released. All of our protocols and papers are publicly available. So again, you can quickly scan, or you can reference all these QR codes when Amanda sends this slide deck to your inboxes later. But we want to make sure you always know that we have all of this information out there, including now the addition of links for parvovirus and measles for you to learn more about how we are doing these measurements and what our methods are. Right now for measles, this is a Google Doc that has all the methods in it. We're working on a publication. All the papers and fact sheets are publicly available. So parvovirus, one of the new viruses that we're monitoring, we have this preprint that is available that describes that. So you can check that out. It was recently accepted, but you can look at the preprint now. And then submitted papers that are available as preprints, we have West Nile virus, some work on antibiotic resistance that we held a special session on some of those results, and then Mpox clade 1b testing. So you can look at all of those preprints. Those papers have been submitted and are going through a peer review process. And you can look at the whole body of work here at this link on the dashboard, just data.wastewaterscan.org/publications. We have FAQs, fact sheets, guidance documents, etc., all linked on our website as well in that publications section. And so there's pathogen specific, frequently asked questions, fact sheets, and then documents that give guidance, interpretation, etc. So we're always updating whenever we have something new to add. We add it here. So make sure to check out that section for a whole bunch of resources, and definitely email and let us know if you're looking for something, you wish you had something and you don't see it there. Let us know, because then we would love to work with you to make sure that you have all of the information that you need from us. And our kind of really exciting announcement, we shared this over email, but we're excited to share it today with all of you in person, that the WastewaterSCAN program will be continuing for another 18 months through the end of 2026. We're super excited that we're going to be able to continue to work together. We are going to be including all of the sites that are currently in the program in this extension of sort of a phase 3 of WastewaterSCAN. So we're really excited information with you about things that we'll be doing, but your experience is not going to change at all. We're going to keep doing things as we've been doing them. We're going to keep with the network of sites that we're working with, and we'll continue to keep you updated about new things that are happening, just as we've kept you updated about the addition of measles and parvovirus and all of that. So thank you so much for all of your support over years of time now that we've all been working together, sending samples, working with us on results that you get, sharing this information with your communities. This project, I mean, we've been like poured our hearts and souls into it and spent every waking hour on it, over many years now. But the success of the work that we're doing and the way that we're able to share really useful information for public health is because we have these partnerships that are work so well, and all of you are so dedicated to it. So thank you so much, and we're really excited to be able to continue to share this work with you. And then, oops, my clicking isn't working. And I want to mention that we do have a survey that we are launching in the coming week or so that is for state public health and for utilities. So please look out for emails in the coming week or so on that. The goal of these surveys is to really help us understand your experience of implementing wastewater monitoring in your jurisdictions and factors that help you have success in those areas. And so that will really help us to make sure that we're doing all the things that we can do to support you going forward. And it's also, a kind of theory-based project based on an implementation science framework to help us understand and communicate also to the kind of the research and larger community, what are some of the things that are really important for programs like this work to be successful. So please take a look out for that, and we'd really appreciate your time to respond to that survey. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Allie for measles and research updates.
Hey everybody. So we rolled out the measles assay on June 2nd, 2025 to the public dashboard. And next slide, I'm going to go over some details associated with it. So we developed a new assay that is adapted from one published by Roy et al. In 2017. The assay is shown here. It was tested in silico and in vitro for specificity and sensitivity, and tested on biobank samples in collaboration with local public health department and wastewater treatment plants. Next slide. These results are from the digital droplet PCR machine, basically showing the fluorescence of droplets that contain different nucleic acid controls. So on the left is a sample that has the actual wild type measles, genotype B3 and D8. And droplets that are positive are shown as red droplets up on the y-axis, and they're circled by a red box. On the right are a bunch of droplets with the vaccine sequence in it, and you can see that there are no positive droplets in that red black box. So this is just a way to visualize that the assay is specific to wild type measles B3 and D8, and it does not detect the vaccine strain. And this is the assay that we've used. Just to remind you guys about how we did the prospective scaling, which is how we have approached it for everything to date, is that we first piloted the assay prospectively with 8 wastewater treatment plants and the public health partners for 2 weeks in early May. And these results were only shared privately with the partners. Then the week of May 19th, we scaled the assay across all the WastewaterSCAN sites, and we had results available via a staged website with a unique URL, and results were not publicly available at that time, but everybody could look at the site who had the link. And then the week of June 2nd, we made the data public and also available by API to all of you and all the partners. So that's what we did, and that's been the approach that we've taken all along for scaling things. The idea being that if problems come up, that we have time to rethink scaling the assay and releasing data publicly. Next slide. Since we started the prospective monitoring, we've had a handful of sites that have had at least one positive detection, and they're shown here. Blue means that a sample was collected and was negative. red means a sample was collected and was positive for measles, and white means no sample was collected. And what you'll notice is that there were a lot of positive samples at this site in Sacramento across the middle. That's one of our sites that samples every single day. And they've been working with us since 2020 and sampling every single day since 2020. So they've been an amazing partner. And we did discover through public health, public announcement that they did identify a positive measles case in the area. So that was interesting to learn. Next slide. This is a visualization of sites that have had at least one positive measles detection. You can see the site is red if it was positive. The state is dark gray if it has a site that was positive in the state. And then you can see underneath the label of the state, whether or not there's a known measles case in the county. And you can see the information about the sewer shed in Sacramento being positive for the California site. And as far as we know, most these other sites, Florida, Maryland, Connecticut, Michigan, we haven't been informed of a known measles case, but there was some positive cases in the area in Colorado related to a Turkish airline flight, which was in the news where there was a measles case. Next slide. If you want to look at our data dashboard, we want to update you on how we're displaying the data. So we recently updated the category methodology for rare pathogens to indicate a not detected category, which is shown in green. So not detected means 0 samples have tested positive for measles in the last 10 days. And low means at least 1 sample was tested positive for measles in the last 10 days. So in this map, there are 5 sites that had at least 1 positive measles detection in the last 10 days. 1 site in California, 2 sites in Colorado, 1 site in Florida, and 1 site in Michigan. So we added that based on some feedback from some of our partners who wanted to know if there had been 0 measles detections. That was important to them. So we added this feature. Next slide. So there are some reference documents here for you to look at. One is a frequently asked questions on wastewater scan measurements of measles RNA, and then the methods that we're using to test for measles. And as Marlene said, we are writing up a short paper to submit to a journal and as a preprint soon. So that testing document will sort of be replaced with a more thorough preprint link. Next slide. Just a quick note on some other ongoing research we're working on. We're still working on the Bordetella pertussis and Mycobacterium tuberculosis detection in wastewater. We're also working on viral metagenomics for use in wastewater, which is a pathogen agnostic sort of approach. We are using a probe capture method, so we do need to know something about the pathogens that we're trying to detect them. So it's not completely agnostic, but close. And then the Oropouche virus, we're also working on that, which is an arbovirus. And next slide. Okay, I'll pass it to Amanda.
Thanks, Allie. Next slide. So I'm just going to briefly go over the categorization method. As Allie mentioned, we made some changes earlier this week, but we've developed a categorization method that is based on levels, trends, and frequency of detection. And there's a link in our About page, if you, I'll add it to the chat, where you can find detailed information about our methodology on the website. Next slide. So as a reminder, we have 3 different archetypes for how we categorize pathogens. So we've got pathogens that are commonly detected regardless of season. We have seasonal pathogens, and we have pathogens that are not commonly detected. So we recently added measles, as everybody knows, and because that is a rare pathogen, we felt comfortable adding it to the wastewater categorization method for rare pathogens. But the other pathogens we just added, parvovirus, rotavirus, and adenovirus group F, we are holding off on assigning a category for those until we have a longer time series of data to build off of. Next slide. So as Ali mentioned earlier this week, we made some changes to the rare pathogen logic. We had feedback from a few stakeholders about wanting to quickly be able to look at the map and determine if there has been a detection of measles in a particular location. And so we were able to go in pretty quickly and create this new not detected category, which means there were 0 positive samples within the last 10 days. So this change not only impacts what you will see with the measles data on the front page of the website, but it affects Mpox clade 1B, Mpox clade 2, C. auris, and hepatitis A as well. Next slide. So I'm going to go over current categories and hopefully keep it brief because I want to leave plenty of time for questions. So I've changed the view of this slide a little bit. I'm not including plots on this anymore since we have so many pathogens. I wanted to give a high-level overview of where we're at for all of them. So SARS-CoV-2, we are in the low category due to no trends and low concentrations. We've had a 95% detection rate in the last 21 days, and 54% of sites are in that low category. Influenza A, B, RSV, human metapneumovirus, and EVD68 are all in the low category due to no longer being in seasonal onset. There are a handful of sites that are still in onset for influenza A and B, but it's less than 10 sites at the moment. As I mentioned, parvovirus, we're not calculating a category for currently, but we've had a 53% detection rate since we started monitoring, with some sites having more frequent detection of parvo than other. Neurovirus is in the medium category due to medium concentrations and no trend. Rotavirus and human adenovirus, as I mentioned, we're not currently calculating categories, but rotavirus has been detected in 98% of samples since we started monitoring for it, and human adenovirus group F has been detected in 100% of samples in the last 21 days. C. auris is in the low category due to limited detections. It's a 4.8% detection rate across the whole network. Hepatitis A, we've had 40 positive detections in the last 10 days, with some sites seeing more frequent detections than others. Measles, as Ali mentioned, is in the low category. We've had 7 positive detections in the last 10 days across 4 different states. Mpox clade 1B and Mpox clade 2 are both in this non-detect category since we have not had any positive detections in the last 10 days. Next slide. Here is a summary overview of the last 2 years of data for our respiratory pathogens. You have SARS-CoV-2 at the top, then influenza A, B, RSV, human metapneumovirus, and EVD68 on the left. They each have their own axis on their own scale on the y-axis, and the orange line indicates where we were 1 year ago today. We will be sending out these slides for reference, but I just wanted people to know that last year is when we saw a huge spike in EVD68 across all of the sites in the program, and we are practically at non-detect for most sites except for a handful in California currently. So we've had this big peak over the last year, and we're back down to mostly non-detect. Next slide. Earlier this week, we updated our sequencing pipeline. I know we had gotten quite a few questions about this, so we were able to work with our lab partners to update the flow here. And now, I know this is a pretty small plot to see, there's a lot of data here, but if you look at that last column, that indicates data through the end of May. And as you can see, you have brown, which indicates LP.8.1, and that's at 35%. And then we were able to add in NB.1.8.1, which is in this mauve color. It's really hard to see this small, but there is a link and we will be sending out these slides for reference. That's at 13%. And then FXG, which is in orange, is 10.3. And that top right above FXG is gray, and that is other currently as well. Next slide. So I believe this is my last one. Just wanted to give you a high-level overview of H5. So we kind of are only getting a handful of detections here and there. We've had detections this week in Arkansas, New Jersey, and Virginia. But across the board, we haven't been seeing as many detections as we did this past winter. But 80 sites across the network, which is about 55% of our network, have had at least one positive detection for the H5 marker since we began prospective monitoring in May of 2024. Next slide. And that's it for now. As a reminder, this is our general email. So if you want a quick question, you have a quick question on the methodology or data, please email this. It goes to Allie, Marlene, myself, and Stephen, and one of us will be able to get back to you. Next slide. And we are at the end. So our next stakeholder call will be on July 11th, and we will be sending out our monthly newsletter in a couple of weeks. And that is all we have for the slides, and we are happy to answer any questions you have.